What's up, everybody? This is Jarrett from Bowling for Soup, and you're listening to Upside Down Shark Radio. Nothing worse than an upside down shark, except an upside down shark on the radio.
Hello everybody and welcome to Upside Down Shark, episode 41. This week we will be talking about wrestling. Does anyone actually watch wrestling anymore? Let's be honest. We'll be talking about Fortnite Season 5. We'll be talking about parents and kids and video games. And we'll also be talking about my nut roast that I have here in front of me. Joined this week is Tom Baker.
Is that it? Do I not get a funny nickname or anything?
I thought I was gonna just say Tom Baker and then like put in loads of afterwards, but now you've ruined the hype machine. I hope you have.
See, if I was gonna plan it in advance, I'd want it to be Macho Man Randy Savage's theme music. Okay.
Is that how you wouldn't have any nicknames? You just have here he is, and then have the theme song happening.
Just like that.
I can't really recall his theme off the top of my head, if I'm honest.
It's just Land of Hope and Glory.
Okay.
But without the words.
So if you're Macho Man, is Paul your Elizabeth?
I don't know. He sometimes he's my Elizabeth. The next day he might be my Hulk Hogan. The mega powers might be colliding. And that you are Miss Elizabeth, who is tearing us apart.
Love will tear us apart, Tom. But do you know what will bring us together?
What will?
Some plugs.
Wow. Smooth like smooth peanut butter.
Smooth like Sunday morning.
That's the famous lyric goes. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, Castbox, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher. I think that's about it, isn't it? We are on Discord, Reddit and everything like that, but don't worry about them. Just stick to the big old ones, and we'll feed you with daily content, whether it be memes, podcast episodes, videos, interviews, you name it, you want it, we'll give it to you.
We're like X, except nothing like X, except we'll give it to you.
Craig's gonna give it to you.
Yes, I will. It's
anything you want.
For those of you that don't know, we are recording via this thing called the internet. That's how some people do radio shows now.
It's the future.
I was blown away by this revelation, and it makes you feel like you're more like radio, doesn't it? Just like, well, I've got to speak prim and proper now.
I feel like I'm not shouting as much as I normally do, and it's nicer on my throat.
Well, you do live in a shared house. It's nicer for the people you live with too, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, gotta be conscientious.
We usually have a third member. Jim from Deary Me. Why isn't he here this week, Tom?
I know, he hasn't been here for so many weeks. It feels like since week 2 that he's just been AWOL. He's
been really dropping the ball.
Yeah, it's just letting the side down. Come on, Jim. What's up with that?
Also, occasional contributor, Paul Wood. Where is he?
Freelance article sponsor. Our Paul Wood, unfortunately, he can't be here today. The third voice of Upside Down Shark. Some would say the first voice, but in this case, because he's not here, the third voice. He went to the zoo today, and they wouldn't let him out. So take of that what you will. But we hope he makes a swift escape soon. If not, I hope you enjoy your new family. I know they're a lot hairier than the ones that you're used to, but you adapt with what you got.
Yeah. I wonder what his favourite animal was.
I don't know. I feel like he's an antelope man. I
feel like what you're saying though. If I went down to the zoo and he still hadn't escaped, I'd be in for a big surprise.
What kind of surprise?
I don't want to know.
See, he strikes me as the sort of person that he'd get locked in the zoo for one night and be completely feral the next morning. Like, lost all sense of civilization, lost the ability to talk, somehow is just wearing a loincloth. I don't even know how we fashioned a loincloth in one night, but...
He's eaten part of his feces. He didn't have to, but he just did.
He's like, what is it, the cavemen in Wacky Races that are just hair.
Just massive hair growth in that one night, just because natural rain and the sun.
But it's all just one. It's all fringe. He grows hair from all over his body, but somehow it's all fringe.
It's just that emo days back to haunt him all over again. Enough about that. Should we get down to business?
Yes, let's do business.
I ain't got no time to muck around. What is this? Must be a circus in town. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Until we get this Upside Down Shark wrestling spin-off, we are going to have to talk about wrestling here and there, right?
You make it sound like it's a chore. Wrestling's great.
We are the premier pop culture podcast, you tell me every week.
That we are.
However, for pop culture, don't you need to be popular?
It helps.
Okay.
I mean, we managed to do it without being popular, but we're an exception.
My mummy says I'm popular, so I'll just continue to live in that, that I am. Is that okay? Does that count?
That you are.
Because if I can do that, then surely the WWE can do that too, right?
Well, they try to do that. They do try and do that. Why don't you elaborate a little bit of what we're sort of skirting around?
Skirting around.
Yeah.
Was it this week? Last Monday?
That is correct.
It was the lowest rating Raw in memory.
Raw only started like 25 years ago, so...
Isn't the pay-per-view ones usually... What was that, sorry?
I was just going to say, you say in living memory, like Raw started on 25 years ago. Of course, every single episode's in living memory.
In my living memory, I just saw the headline saying lowest Raw in ages. Build up to a pay-per-view, and like they weren't allowed to mention Brock Lesnar, and it seemed like no one wanted to watch it.
No, it's weird. As you said, the Raw before a pay-per-view tends to be very inconsequential because they're not going to do anything huge the night before or the week before a pay-per-view. And not only is it the Raw before a pay-per-view, it's the Raw before Extreme Rules, which is normally the worst pay-per-view of the year because they're not allowed to actually be extreme. So I can understand why people would be dropping off. Also for the fact, as you said, which we'll go into a bit more later, Brock Lesnar being not just absent in person, but absent for any reference of him at all. Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley is just the most boring feud I can possibly fathom. And essentially it's just the IC feud keeping the show together at the moment with Seth, Drew and Dolph. And when you'll be relying on 2018's Dolph Ziggler to keep your show running, you're in a bit of problem.
It must be really good because he's a really swell guy.
Apparently he's a really nice guy, but he's not as good as he was 5 years ago. That is very true.
I'm sure 5 years of them continually shoving rubbish on you might do that to you too. But that's just not my opinion.
Are you saying that he was here to show the world, but the world wasn't interested?
I'd say the world was interested. Maybe some of the world's writers may not have been interested.
Maybe he needed to be more of a show-off.
He needed to get some spirit. Maybe he needed to go to a certain squad to get that spirit.
Yes, I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds like a good idea.
Oh, okay. Was Spirit Squad before your time?
No, I know what you're talking about. I was playing naive. I know all about Nikki.
Nikki. Yeah. So, I don't watch WWE anymore. I barely watch any wrestling. I heard New Japan is very good, and I should watch that.
You should.
But I'm already watching enough animes from Japan, so I don't need anything else from Japan at this point in my life.
Do you want me to send you the soundbite of your face with the Attack on Titan music just for that little bit?
So I'll just walk around and say, when I introduce myself to people, I'll just play that video every time.
Yeah, hi, I'm Craig.
I only watch a few anime. You make it sound like I'm Crunchyroll's #1 subscriber. Like,
I am amazed you're not at Hyper Japan this weekend.
There was a convention?
Yeah, there's a thing at the, I believe it's at the Excel every year called Hyper Japan, where it's just loads of Japanese culture and stuff. So
next year, having a shark costume, gonna go there, handing out flyers.
A kawaii shark costume.
Upside Down Shark, your #1 source for anime.
That's a bold-faced lie, but go for it.
Hey, we're talking about wrestling and we're called a pop culture podcast. Right, really?
Yeah, why not?
So wrestling, I stopped watching it. Got fed up with Roman Reigns. I think it's been on a really downward scale recently, and apparently it's starting to bleed into actual people watching the weekly shows now. Which, how long? So this is my question to you, Tom. It's obviously Brock Lesnar's the champion. He doesn't make any appearances. How can people get hyped for him? People don't want Roman Reigns. How long until WWE listen?
Well,
this is not working out.
I think the real watershed moment, it's already occurred, but I think it will come to fruition in the next few weeks, is the new Fox deal, the new TV deals with Fox, and I believe the USA Network have gone through, and they're worth $1 billion each, or it might have been $1 billion combined for SmackDown and Raw, which is...
By God.
Is it what, sorry?
By God.
By God. They killed it. It's a huge influx of money, and it should allow them to either expand their programming or at least invest a lot more money into the production. So we've already seen this in a little way with last week's SmackDown, where, did you see this? We're back with Team Hell No.
What are you talking about?
It was a very cool ending. So Team Hell No, so Daniel Bryan and Kane were going up to the top of the ramp to end the show, and they were doing each other's little gestures. So Kane was doing the no, 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 or it might have been the yes thing, but either or, I can't quite remember. And Daniel Bryan did the thing where he lifts up his arms, what Kane does to lifts up his arms and looks like he's going to smack him down, and then all the fire comes up. And obviously he's done that for years, but recently, because they've cut out the pyro, it's just lost all the pizzazz of it. It's just him with loads of red LEDs going off to mimic fire.
That sounds stupid.
It's not quite as impressive. So Daniel Bryan does it, lifts up his arms, and then smacks him down, and nothing happens. And he looks around a bit confused, and he's like, wait, give me one more chance. And he does it again, hands go down, nothing happens. And then Kane's looking at him like, what are you trying to do, man? He goes, give me one more chance. And then he lifts up his hands a third time, smacks him down, and all this pyro just goes off to end the show.
Oh, okay.
So pyro's back for at least little occasions like that.
So I think... sorry, you got a message. Kane doesn't like you talking about his pyro, apparently.
I've just got a message saying, watch live now, Upside Down Shark, UDS 41. Will Paul be here? Raw!
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
So you're saying pyro's back, the biggest announcement from WWE this week.
I mean, that's pretty exciting. I think pyro just adds a whole new level of it, and I know we get it at WrestleMania, but it's just cool. It's fireworks and fire in general is just, if not dangerous, is very cool.
Who would have thought that this year in the WWE we'd see vacant champion and pyro with the same amount of appearances? I wouldn't have thought that. But that's what happened.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think they are listening more and more to the crowd. I think the Roman Reigns experiment is the final straw. I think Vince wants to see it through. I think that's still the long goal, especially with what's happening with Brock at the moment.
Wasn't it 3 years ago?
What, the original WrestleMania match?
Yeah.
Yes, it was 2015.
Jeez.
WrestleMania 31, sorry, where Seth cashed in, and it was the best ending to a pay-per-view ever.
So, do you think it's just stubbornness? Brock Lesnar came back, and then he had this thought, Roman Reigns is going to go on this journey, and then obviously it didn't happen. So now, out of pure stubbornness, they're just it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Well, I think Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter summed up the shift from... Because I know a lot of people say, oh, why don't you go for the new Rock or Austin or the new Hulk Hogan, even though they've tried to do that to an extent with, obviously, John Cena and Roman Reigns. And he said the difference is that back in the 90s and more so in the 80s, WWE was a live event. That's where they got their money, was from live shows and from touring, a bit like musicians now. Now it is just a brand exercise. Everything they do is to appease investors and to sell merchandise, and it may suck, but that is the reality that they work with now. So that's why Roman Reigns is a good fit for them, because obviously he's a good looking dude, so if he can fill all those media PR appearances, he's popular with the kids, more so than any other demographic, and he's safe as well. He doesn't do anything that you can see in New Japan. He doesn't do any sort of weird pile drivers or moonsaults or splashes or anything like that can end someone's career, either yours or someone else's. So yeah, I can see from that point of view why they push him, but goddamn, it does make it boring. That's why I'm hoping that someone like either Drew McIntyre or Adam Cole in NXT will eventually pick up the mantle when everyone realizes that the Roman's Reigns thing isn't working. So who knows? But I think there's enough talent on there to keep the product entertaining regardless of who's champion. And I still think it's probably the best for just pure in-ring showmanship. So in terms of the quality of matches and whatnot, I think it's probably better now than it has ever been. That's not to say that it's as entertaining as it's ever been, because I mean, personally, the Attitude Era is still, just for like the sheer carnage of it all, is still the best it's ever been. But yeah, I mean, when you've got AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and Shinsuke, and all the NXT guys coming up, they're the best wrestlers in the world in any promotion. So they do put on good matches, if nothing else.
So it's like they're doing good matches, but everything else around it is bad. Like the storylines, the little skits. Well, that's the thing.
It's just Raw. It is just Raw that is really bad at the moment. Even SmackDown is still not as good as NXT, but that's because I'm a hipster smark. But SmackDown focuses on in-ring competition. All the storylines are basically, other than a few exceptions, based on who is the better competitor in the ring. Whereas Raw is always just so bogged down with convoluted storylines, like them fat shaming Nia Jax, or oh no, Brock Lesnar's turned his back on the WWE to go and fight in the UFC and everything like that. And it just gets more and more ridiculous. And when every single show starts with a promo rather than a match, if you're a fan of the athletic side of it rather than the soap opera side of it, then it's just a bit disappointing. But SmackDown's really good. It's a shame that the ratings have been dropping on that as well.
I mean, it's just the Roman Reigns thing. They need to just change him or something to make him interesting, and then just this. What's that?
What would you do to make Roman Reigns interesting if you were head booker?
I would head booker.
Head booker T.
Sucker.
King Booker.
What would I do for Roman Reigns? Right, I heard this theory and it was good. This was years ago, before Undertaker versus Roman Reigns even happened.
Okay.
What you have is Roman Reigns beat the Undertaker, and then the Undertaker's soul goes in to Roman Reigns, and then Roman Reigns becomes the new Undertaker. So he has that same gimmick, but because he's the dead man, he doesn't care that people's booing him, so he could be a bad guy until he gets won over again, because that's really the problem there, right?
But then you could bring back OG Undertaker, even though he's like 60, and he can try and reclaim his legacy.
See, well, no, because then you bring back Biker Undertaker, and then you have Undertaker versus Undertaker once again. See, this stuff for us.
You've done it now.
No, and then you get Fred Durst on stage, because he's already in the WWE Hall of Fame, so he's easy to get now. So there you go.
He's up there with Donald Trump and Drew Carey.
Yep, there you go.
Illustrious company.
Oh, we should just do an Upside Down Shark Hall of Fame and just, get the same people, just awful people, into this celebrity wing of Upside Down Shark Radio, of course.
First entry is Paul's attendance.
It wouldn't turn up. Oh! Hey. But one of the reasons people... It's like, they're champion at the moment. He gets paid $500,000 for every appearance. Mm-hmm. And he has a rolling contract now, and that's their champion for Raw. That's a rubbish example, if you ask me. And what happened with their WWE champion? He turned up on UFC, cut the best promo I think I've ever seen him cut.
It was the most sports entertainment promo I've ever seen, and it was in what was meant to be a legitimate sport. It was ridiculous.
If you let Brock Lesnar go out there and just say, you just have to say, this event, I'm going to see you at SummerSlam, and then just make him ad-lib the rest, I reckon he would be really good at that.
He would be dropping so many F-bombs, though, it would be so bad.
Yeah.
it still will never be his Paul say something stupid promo.
That's what we say to Paul quite a
Paul,
lot.
say something stupid.
So he's the WWE champion, turned up on UFC, pushed the UFC champion, gave a good promo, left, and
challenged current heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier,
and gave myself more to think about and talk about than he's done in WWE for ages.
Yep.
And it's sad to see that, like as you said, WWE look at their day-to-day, what they can do to get more viewers, keep the stock market happy and stuff like that. That keeping Brock Lesnar champion so he turns up on events that get more views than their own, that's what they do. That just is crazy to me. I just can't get behind that. It makes me sad.
I can see why they did it, because I wouldn't be surprised, to tell you the truth, if he wins at SummerSlam, which is his next scheduled appearance, which apparently he will honour, and I wouldn't be surprised if he won that and then went into UFC as Universal Champion, WWE Universal Champion, because even if he loses, then that's still such good exposure for the WWE in a whole different market. And I think I think that there's a lot more conversation between Dana White and Vince McMahon than they like to let on. I think that there is a lot of collaboration and collusion in what they're doing with Brock Lesnar. So yeah, I think this works well for both, especially because UFC have just renewed their contract. I believe it's with ESPN, and they're going to have a massive marquee show in the new year to start this new TV deal, and that's when they're going to bring back, obviously, Brock Lesnar. They bring back Conor McGregor for that as well. I tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised. She won't fight, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ronda Rousey doesn't make an appearance in the crowd. So yeah, I think it's all meant to benefit that, and then I don't think Brock will drop the title until WrestleMania next year. So
that sounds awful. Glad I don't watch wrestling anymore.
It's only one little storyline in.
Is it really a storyline?
It is.
I mean,
it's what they tried to do last year. Well, for last
WrestleMania.
WrestleMania.
Storyline. What? Brock doesn't show up, and then everyone else just complains about how he's not showing up. And
well, that's what
care.
They did before WrestleMania last year, where Roman was like, "Where is Brock? Where's Brock?" And then he confronted Vince kayfabe, and he says, he had said like Brock Lesnar has more privileges and everything like that, and then they just sort of broke the storyline about halfway through before WrestleMania, where he just turned up and then they brawled, and it was just a standard Reigns Brock feud, because it was getting Reigns over for a little while because people were legitimately booing Brock for not turning up. So I think they're just going to try and do that again this time round and just see how it goes. But
it's like if Paul went to me, I'm a usual on this podcast, and then it's just me and you mentioning him all the time. That doesn't make an appearance. Like,
and then he turns up on a different podcast calling someone else out.
Yeah, and then he turns up on like the Joe Rogan show and talks rubbish about us.
Starts referring to himself as the Beast.
Yes. I got locked in the zoo for a whole evening, and it changed my philosophy on life.
I know, I'm a beast.
What do you want to do? Do you want to do Song of the Week, Track of the Week?
Let's do it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Track of the Week.
Wrestling's going down the tube, so let's hear something that will keep us positive and isn't bad.
Also, just a little note on the end of the wrestling chat. In New Japan, this past week, well, it'll be a couple of weeks ago by the time this goes out, Hiromu Takahashi injured his neck again in a match against Dragon Lee. It looks like he's actually snapped his neck, and which is real bad news. So I'm not sure if there's been any news since this has gone out, but we send all our best wishes to him, and hope that he's not out for too long and that he's all nice and healthy. So best of luck with the recovery on that. So on that negative note, let's get into something a little bit more upbeat with our track of the week, which is by a new band called Earn, who have released their new single Dust Atlas, which has recently been played on BBC Radio 1's Rock Show. It's come off their forthcoming EP, The Mountains of Gold, which is self-released by the band, which will be released on the 27th of July. You can find them on Facebook and Twitter, and I think they're damn good. So I hope you agree with me. So without further ado, here is Ern with Dust Atlas. Check it out.
Running through the tunnels, the skin Hi, this is Frank Turner, and you are lucky enough to be listening to Upside Down Shark Radio.
Tom, where can I hear that banger once again?
You can hear it on their YouTube channel.
Yeah.
If you went back onto the BBC iPlayer, you can listen to it on the BBC Radio 1 Rock Show, or just find their Facebook and Twitter pages and find everything there. And make sure to listen to, download, purchase, and give a lot of love to their EP, The Mountains of Gold, released on the 27th of July, so not long.
And what was that band again? I don't think we said their name.
We did, it's Earn.
Yeah, but we didn't say it after the song played.
That was Earn with Dust Atlas.
Everyone, make sure your atlases are up to date and don't have any dust on.
Yeah, no one wants a dusty atlas unless it's a good song.
This week, in the terms of pop culture news, there wasn't any big stories, so I just got a few little bits if you want to discuss them.
Yes, I like little bits.
I've heard that about you. South Park Season 22 is confirmed for a release date of September 26th.
That's not long.
That's not long. It seems like they had that big long, for a season or two, they had all the interconnected stories. Last season, they shied away from that a little bit. And I'm wondering what they'll be doing this season, because I like me some South Park, you know.
I like South Park. I didn't actually watch the last series because I found it a little bit harder to get into the longer narrative arc seasons where they all the episodes were interconnected. But
I think the problem was when they did the Mr. Garrison becoming president story arc. I think they didn't actually think Trump would win, and when he did win and they tried to write that into the story, you just ended up with the Memberries like saluting him right near the end, and it seemed like they didn't really have something in mind. But
they were as miserable as we were.
Yes, indeed. We don't really need to discuss this new segment because I bet everyone else knows this by now, but Fortnite Season 5 is out now.
Has anyone actually played it? Let us know in the comments, because I haven't played it since the 2 matches I played during Season 3. It's alright. Can't say it's as addictive as I thought it would be, but it was quite funny. I was at work on Friday and there was 2 work experience kids came in, and I was showing them a little bit about what I do in my job, and I was just saying something like, do you watch any YouTube gamers or anything like that? Because obviously I was showing them like all the how to make a YouTube channel and everything, and they went, oh no, but I play a lot of Fortnite. And I was like, really, did you play anything else? And he went, no, just Fortnite. And I was like, that is it. That is just every 15-year-old in this country is
it's free,
Fortnite.
And people can play it on their phones. That's all you need.
Yep, it's a phenomenon.
A phenomenon. Related to that somewhat, according to a childcare survey. Have you heard of childcare?
No.
Me neither. There are obviously a company that look after that wants to help children and make sure they're safe. That's a nice cause, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
They sent a survey, and did you know that more than half of parents let kids play 18 plus video games? And I thought, we've all been there, we've all been kids, you know. Do you remember? You don't remember this, but I will tell you my story. I was 14 and I wanted Tony Hawk's Underground, which is a 16 plus, and I went up to buy it, and you know, the cashier was like, oh, sorry mate, you're not old enough. And he went and spoke to his manager and was like, you know the rules, you can't do it. And he was like, oh, but I'm really annoyed. Like, when I was a kid, this happened to me all the time too. And I'm sure it's happened to you as well, Tom. Has it?
Yeah, I remember trying to buy a Hellboy triple DVD edition when I must have been about 10, and obviously I think the special edition is actually a 15, and I think I tried to blag it that I was buying it for my dad, and they were like, no, you still can't do it. But I remember the first ever 18 game that I ever received. It was The Darkness, excuse me, for Xbox 360. I remember I was out in some town with some friends, and one of my friends, his mum, came to pick him up, and before that he needed to buy a game, and she would just let him buy 18 games, or bought 18 games for him. And so I gave her the game, so can you get this for me as well? And she was like, oh yeah, sure. So that was how I got my first 18 game, and it's still one of my favourite games of all time, for that matter.
We are going to find out who she is, and we are going to lock her up based on these remarks. That is against the law, and I do not support this practice.
Snitches get stitches, though.
That's true. Yeah, you're true there.
Exactly.
So Fortnite is technically a 12 game, but people are worried because of its addictiveness and the ability for in-game purchases and stuff like that. Do you think that parents should be more aware of that stuff, or should games be rated higher if they're more addictive? What do you think?
I think it's difficult. I think it's a case of there is always going to be the burden on the parents. Quite rightly, I think that you should keep up to date with what your kids are up to and how much time they're spending on video games, because I believe we discussed it a few weeks ago that essentially anything can become addictive because it's the addiction itself is the illness rather than sometimes what is the actual cause of the addiction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like when we said you can just give up smoking because it's all in your head.
Of course. that famous NHS advice, it's all in your head. I don't think we should re-rating games purely based on their addictive nature, because we don't do that with anything else. Essentially, you don't, other than even Facebook, you have to be 13 to make a Facebook account, but that's more just on the content that's on there rather than the addictive nature of social media. But social media, I would argue, is just as addictive as, or it has the potential to be just as addictive as video games. I think that the best thing which they've been doing since it started is just to rate it on the nature of the content in there, whether it be violent or inappropriate in any other way. So
that's a good point. Social media, we still don't really know how destructive it is being for our mental well-being, really, do we?
I think it's very destructive.
Sorry to cut you off, but like
no.
You see in Fortnite, people are getting this straight away. They lose and they wreck the telly and stuff like that. That's receptive straight away. But we don't really know as a society. Like, some studies have been shown link social media to depression, and some people just that doesn't really make any difference.
I think it has the potential to be very addictive and very damaging. I think that you were right that a lot of strain and stress can be put on the particularly more vulnerable people, such as teenagers and younger people. It can put such a strain on their either personal relationships or just the ability to not to switch off. That you don't have the ability to switch off from the wider world so much when social media is just accessible at the click of a button at all times. And I think that does put a massive burden on people to keep up with all that. And also, it's just such a time sink as well. I'm guilty of this more than anyone, that I will just scroll through for hours on social media. I'm going to see how much data I use, and I guarantee you it won't be YouTube or anything like that is rinsing my data. I think it will be social media. Bear with me.
The new iOS update will give you analytics to how much you're on apps for, like bigger analytics and statistics, and you can say, like, if I use my phone for this amount of time a day, then limit me and stuff like that, because Google already have that going on in Android, so iOS have that soon. So even the phone companies now are like, we know that phones can be damaging to your health. Who doesn't know that at this point? But we're going to try and help it so it's healthy for you.
It's just everything in moderation. So since the start of the calendar year, I have spent 23 gigabytes worth of data on Twitter alone. So that's at least 3 months worth of my allowance was being used.
My allowance.
My data usage allowance. So yeah, that is sickening, and I think I could get so much more accomplished if I didn't have that. I know a lot of people are now taking it upon themselves to delete their social media accounts, particularly Facebook, and I think that's very commendable. In fact, one of the work experience guys that I was speaking to on Friday, he was 15 and doesn't even have a Facebook account. So I think that just goes to show that the tide is turning a little bit.
Why would I want that? My grandma's got that.
Exactly. So yeah, it's interesting to see how these things have maybe reached their peak already, or at least in their current iteration, and will either need to change, adapt, or perish. So
that's true. Let's not end on so much. I don't know how we got to where we got to, but we
always go off on tangents.
Let's end with not a good story, not a bad story, but just a story that makes you go, huh? Okay, so are you ready to go, huh?
I am, always.
Okay. Do you remember the game Aliens Colonial Marines?
I do. It was terrible.
Okay. So, what did you play it on?
I believe it was on 360.
Yes, it was of the 360 PlayStation 3 era.
Yes.
And everyone said it was a horribly broken game. But now someone on the internet in the world has able to make it a somewhat functioning game.
Okay.
Did you hear about this story?
I did not. This is new to me.
Okay. So what someone did was they got it for PC, and they thought, like, I'll just have a rummage around, as you do, because, people are nosy and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what they were able to find was that there was some code that had a typo in it, and what they done was they changed a single letter, and with this change the AI was fixed and the game was indeed playable.
Huh?
And less buggy. Yeah, there you go. So because of this one typo getting through Q&A, they were able to pretty much fix the game.
When you meant Q&A, did you mean QA? So, do you mean it got through quality assessment rather than question and answers?
No, it was quality and assurance.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It can be both things.
Okay.
This is why we need Paul here.
He's at the zoo. What can you do?
Yeah.
That is so tragic. And is this more of a proof that Randy Pitchford, the game developer, is one of the spawn of Satan? So,
do you not like Randy Pitchford?
I do not like Randy Pitchford.
Why?
Colonial Marines, a litany of other terrible games.
So you dislike him personally because of that?
I don't know the man personally, but he seems like he's a terrible at his job. So.
Why are you friends with me then?
Well, because you have the potential to get better.
I'm
joking.
I can get better at the Q&A.
Exactly, yeah. Speaking of Alien Colonial Marines, though, it did have one good Easter egg in it, which did make me chuckle. Have you ever seen the movie Spaceballs?
Yes.
So at the end, there's the spoof bit of Alien where the chestburster goes out of John Hurt's chest and starts singing, "Hello, my baby, hello, my honey."
I recall that.
And it's got the hat and canes combo. There's a liquid tank thing which would have carried one of the chestbursters in like a medical tank thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the smashed remains around it, you can see a top hat and a cane. So
very good Easter eggs.
Yeah, I appreciated that, if nothing else, about the game, because there isn't much in its published state to really enjoy.
Come to UDS for the most up-to-date pop culture talk.
What, like an 8-year-old game?
Yeah.
There was one other little news tidbit, if you will facilitate me.
I'm out of it. Show me your tidbits.
All right. Have you heard about Sacha Baron Cohen's new TV show?
No.
It's called Who is America, and I haven't seen it yet. They've only aired the first episode. It's a return to his undercover interviewee guys, a bit like Ali G or Borat or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he is
It's
now...
nice.
Exactly. He's taking a pop at all the alt-right figureheads in American politics.
Okay.
And by God, apparently it is quite something. He's posing as I believe one of the characters at least, as a disabled American Army veteran who's obviously pulling at these conservative heartstrings to get interviews. and he manages to get former Vice President John McCain to willingly sign a waterboard kit.
Okay.
And he also gets numerous amounts of NRA lobbyists, conservative politicians, including Twitter troll Joe Walsh, who is one of the worst people alive.
Is that fact or opinion?
I think it's just a widely held opinion, but it's one that I subscribe to.
Okay.
But he gets them to do a little talking head segment for a fake campaign to arm kindergarten students to defend themselves against school shooters, and they deadpan, straight-faced advocate giving guns to 4-year-olds to stop them getting shot.
Well, I mean, they got to know when to defend themselves sometime, right?
I mean, tell them how to stop getting tagged in tag rather than...
What a film.
I haven't seen it yet, but yeah, you get what I mean. It's amazing how awful some of these people can be when they don't know what's going on. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the first episode and seeing the rest of the series, but apparently it's just as depressing as it is funny.
Awful people are awful.
Yes, they are.
Happy people come to UDS Radio.
And they're the best kind of people.
Maybe,
join the Shark Tank.
Maybe even you listening to this, you're a happy person. No depressives allowed. Sorry.
Oh God. I mean, unless we cheer you up, in which case we're happy to provide a service.
Would you like to do a wickedy wrap up?
Yes, I would, because I'm tired and I want to have another cup of tea. So you've been listening to episode 41 of Upside Down Shark Radio. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Google Plus maybe, who knows, Bebo, and let us know what you think of the current state of WWE in the comments below. I have been Tom.
I'm still Craig.
Alright, Paul. And we wish Paul the best of time in the zoo, and we hope that you all too enjoy the zoo. Cheers,
you
guys.
You can come to if you want to.
You can't get an episode through without doing a sick musical number. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, I was going to join in when you said hello my baby, hello my honey, but you had that in the bag.
I've got something in the bag.
I'm not getting in that bag again, I tell you. I fell for it once. I'm not going to fall for it again.
It's just so cosy though. I put hay in there for you next time.
Thanks. Goodbye, Tom.
Goodbye, Craig. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Speak to you next time.
Woo!
In the beat.